All right, welcome to another episode of Spotlight. We're live here at Next Summit, New York, and I'm here with Ben. He's the head of sales representing GeoLocs by Mkodo. So welcome, Ben, to Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
And so let's just get a little bit of an idea of what GeoLocs actually does. So in a sentence, can you tell me what is the GeoLocs pitch and the why you as well?
Yeah, good question. So effectively, we are compliant. We are commercially competitive. We've been going for near on 15 years in geolocation, and we work with a bunch of tier ones that validate our product effectively.
Wonderful. And what would you say, why you? Is it the compliance angle? Is it the legacy angle of being there for 15 years, knowing your stuff?
Yeah, so GeoLocs itself was spun out of Mkodo. Mkodo have been going for 25 years as of May this year, and that's all been exclusively in gaming. So we kind of know our stuff when it comes to gaming. And what it also means is because geolocation is a bit of a friction point in the user journey, we understand that because we've been developing apps for so long, as I say, solely for gaming. So we understand how the user journey should be to try and, yes, it is a bump, but we make that as smooth as possible.
Well, let's talk about your focuses regionally in North America while we're here at New York. You were first live in Ontario.
Yep.
And you launched day one in Brazil, really hot market, and you got there as the day one provider. If an operator is preparing for a new market, regulated, of course, what's the pre-flight checklist in terms of geolocation that an operator should even consider?
Yes, yeah. So effectively, sooner rather than later is always our conversation because things always take longer. They say that they can integrate very quickly overnight. It doesn't take that long, but there's always hurdles across along the way. So we really make sure that people come to us with enough time for us to be able to have all of those introductory conversations, discovery conversations, and really work out what it is that they're looking for. In terms of scalability as well, like you mentioned, Brazil, it's such a huge market that we've noted because our product is so scalable and it can be made redundant depending on the ebbs and flows of, like the World Cup, for example, coming up. That's really important for us to have those conversations with the operators and really digging deep into which markets they're looking into, what the regulations are within those markets, how we can get them up and running, making sure that they launch on time and making sure that they've got a product which is fit for purpose, which is why GeoLocs exists.
Well, so geolocations or GeoLoc is often seen as a compliance checkbox, a must-have, but a little bit of a nightmare in terms of it's not really something that people want to rush to. Like you said, it should be considered more important and getting to there as quick as possible. Where do you believe operators are underestimating the actual commercial and strategic value of geolocation?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because I think you've rightly pointed out it's not a sexy product, right? Unfortunately, it is something that is a necessity. There are certain things like the Wire Act, for example, in the US, where it's not something that you can just say, well, we're not really sure we want to do that. It's a regulation, right? It has to be done. In terms of the commercial aspect, and funny enough, we've had this conversation internally around what we're kind of saying is, how do we make commercial pay for compliance, which is where we want to get to, because there is no real ROI on geolocation. I mean, obviously, as I say, from a regulatory standpoint, you have to have it. And it's obviously cheaper to have a geolocation provider than to get a fine. Not that we ever sell on that, but it's just, how it is. But from a commercial perspective, what we're starting to see is we've got this rich data of where the players are located, because obviously that's what we do. So we're looking at how can we market to those players. Everything that we see as the world almost becomes smaller is around personalization. It's around how can we personalize a bonus. So beyond free spins, beyond just free bets, how do we make something that's really kind of one-to-one? And because we have these kind of hotspots of where these players are playing, we're able to use that information to then have a marketing aspect to it, which, from a commercial perspective is great. From an operating perspective.
Yeah. If you use it properly, that is massive, huge commercial value and strategic value as well. So it's kind of a no-brainer that regulatory, yes, it's important, but you then have the marketing angle, leveraging the data to understand your players. In today's world, it's necessary.
Yes.
You know, as necessary as the need for the regulatory aspect of it as well. In terms of those pain points as well, so what would you say are the top reasons for operators actually switching a geolocations provider? And what are those sort of reasons that often aren't spoken about enough or out loud to others in the industry?
Yeah, so from the first angle, what we've noticed is some of the providers, they don't really cover the legislation. You went to sort of tick boxing before, and that's exactly what they do. But if you actually drill down into the capabilities, some of them are IP based only.
Yeah.
The problem with that is we're here in New York, we're in Manhattan, and they would say broadly, you're in Manhattan. They wouldn't know where you are in Manhattan, they just know broadly you're in Manhattan. So the issue with that is if you're at a state border, they don't really know if it's IP based because it's so broad, if you're beyond the border or if you're within the border.
Yeah.
Which gives you two problems, because you're either letting players in that shouldn't be let in from across the border, which is obviously from a regulation standpoint a big no-no, or from a commercial standpoint, you're not letting people in that are within the border. So you're basically losing out in two different ways.
Yeah.
So IP-based or solely IP-based just doesn't get the job done. That's where GeoLocs comes in, because we can say, okay, we're not just in Manhattan, we're at iGaming next, we're in New York, we're right here. Second perspective is configurability. So we work with not just operators, but we work with sweeps as well. So from a sweeps perspective, it's so volatile in terms of the states, right? So you've got some states that say, oh, you can't, you can, this, that, and the other. So you have to have that ability to configure the zones, green zone, red zone. A simple way of looking at it on the fly. So that's something that we have a capability of. And then thirdly, everything that we do around the reporting, because of the fact that we have such relationships with the regulators, we're really strong on that side of things. And then I would say in terms of the not spoken about, cost is one, but I would say that is probably spoken about quite a lot. But the other side of it is the relationship. So one of the things that we have at GeoLocs is we really call our clients partners, and we mean that. And there are certain case studies that we can provide that basically show we'll go in, and what we try to do is not just make money based on the checks. So just a sort of brief history of geolocation. Most providers, they'll do a check and then you pay per check, right, which is a geolocation check. What we'll do is we'll try and optimize that so they don't have to do more checks than they need to. And they really appreciate that because they realize that actually we're here for long term. Let's help them grow. And then by that growth, we will effectively become more important to them. They'll grow, and then we will obviously, from a commercial perspective, benefit because they're growing. And we found that with Betty in Ontario. I mean, they are an absolute runaway success story, and we're really proud to be part of that. And we've kind of, I wouldn't say helped that growth, but obviously from a regulatory perspective, we've been there, we've been in that corner, and as they've grown, we've really seen that relationship blossom.
Yeah, you've enabled that success, from the geolocations perspective. Crystal ball time.
Yes.
I think everyone wishes they had a crystal ball right now, with everything going on geopolitically, also technologically, AI. And so in terms of the next 12 to 24 months, and I don't even know if that's even looking too far ahead in this crazy time.
Yeah.
What do you anticipate as being the next challenge for geolocation, and what are you preparing for at GeoLocs to address that challenge?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's always funny to me to give a prediction on the market when predictions are so prevalent as a market at the moment, right? But we've always been in a bit of cat and mouse scenario with what we call the bad actors. So the people that are trying to sort of circumvent the location, right? So it's kind of VPN spoofing, all of that sort of stuff, developer tools.
Yeah.
So the honest answer is I don't know, but the more sort of expanded answer is I will know when we know, and we have to kind of stay ahead. So basically we've laid out now, this is how we're doing things, come at us and try and work out how to get around that.
Yeah.
They will, because the world and the technology is moving at such a pace, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
and they will figure out a way of circumventing, all geolocation providers, and then we'll have to up our game and then go to something that they then have to crack again. And that's kind of how it works in our space.
Absolutely. And, from that GeoLocs perspective, how fast are you to actually solve those incoming issues that maybe you hadn't expected because someone has been able to circumvent the GeoLocs? How fast are you to then rectify
We're always monitoring. So across, if you imagine sort of an evil genius, I guess, right? Sitting in a chair and just seeing the dashboards of all of our clients, and we're always sort of monitoring, okay, what's happened there? How's that worked? And that's where that reporting functionality comes in. This isn't a black box of people just going, okay, information goes in, we never get anything out of it. What we're looking at is, okay, how can we improve? And again, going to the optimization piece, how can we make everything better? So being aware of everything that's going on. And then effectively, you start to spot trends in the data. So, going back to the data that we said was important, is you might say, okay, in this certain area, you're getting a lot of people that are using either VPNs or they're using dev tools to try and spoof their location. Why is that? How can we sort that out? And one of the examples I can give is we work a lot with the AGCO in Canada. And they had an apartment building, and there was just so much activity going on that we actually worked with the police, and they said, look, we want you to just sort of draw a polygon around that building because we're seeing too much going on there. So we were able to work with law enforcement, we were able to work with the regulators, we were able to stop, something that clearly was potentially money laundering.
Serious business, huh?
Yes, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a really great way to end, I think, this interview. So thank you so much, Ben, for taking the time. And GeoLocs, watch out for them.
Thanks.